I'm really pleased and excited to be talking to Sue Bradshaw. She's the Director of Learning Quality at GSK. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you.
It's good to talk to you. Now, what I want to just start with is really to ask you about the changes in learning. There's a lot of people who think that there's a revolution going on in corporate learning. And GSK seems to be a little bit of a bubbling under part of that revolution. So tell us what's going on.
What's going on? Well, we've hit a milestone on the 1st of July, which is when we actually changed reporting lines for a large number of the people in our learning organisation. So if I take us back a couple of years, we were a fairly dispersed learning organisation, people in all parts of the business through all the countries, federated through a learning council, but it probably didn't have the connectivity that we really wanted. So what we decided to do, we just took a lot of look at the numbers of people, the resources, what they were doing, how much we were spending, and decided actually for GSK the right option now was to centralise our learning function. So we've been really looking at that in detail and changing our learning model. So we've gone to what people might classically call the 3 circles model. So embedded business partners working very closely with the different parts of the business, a learning operations group who will be the largest part of the organisation, and a centre of excellence, which is where my role as Director of Learning Quality sits, setting the standards, setting the future direction for the 3 to 5 year ambition of how learning really works for learners at GSK.
And how are you going to ensure that those 3 circles don't gradually drift apart or start fighting each other?
So we're connected into one lead team. So our leadership team is representatives from each part of that organisation. So we are still one group. And often you do find operations spin off somewhere else, don't you? And they're not connected, but we're all part of one lead team. Yeah.
So what will be the impact, you think? If we go, take me maybe 18 months down the track, what do you think the difference will be in learning in GSK now and in 18 months?
So I think one of the things you'll see, and we're starting to see already, is some consistency in what we do. So previously our research showed that there were lots of things such as negotiating skills course, presentation skills, communications, all those generic business skills that were being reproduced all over the world. But more specifically, they were very targeted at the UK, US and Belgium, which is where our biggest areas were. What we've already been able to do is to pull that together into one curriculum in 10 different languages available virtually to all of the countries in 120 different countries. So that's really exciting for us.
Yeah, and much more effective and much more cost effective as well.
Absolutely. So that there's something about cost effectiveness, there's something about quality, but there's certainly something about access as we really think about being a global company.
Is there something about speed as well? Are you trying to accelerate learning so that you can keep up with massive changes?
Well, yes, and I'm very interested in the idea of learning at the speed of business, which I know is a bit of a jargon term, but we do need to be agile in our learning. And probably one of the big transitions we need to make is people realising they can learn in the moment. They don't have to wait for a course. We can find it out there, just as we do in the outside world, outside corporate. We'll ask Google or we'll ask a friend or we'll get some, we might even read the manual, who knows. But how can we bring that into GSK rather than people waiting for the course?
Yeah, and expecting you to repackage everything.
Yeah.
So if it's there and it's good, use it.
Yeah, absolutely. So very much, let me pull what I need rather than you just push out what you think I want.
Yeah, learning in the moment and empower people to sort it out themselves, basically. It's not your job to sort everybody out.
No, it's not, but it's interesting how it sometimes feels for people like that's what we should be doing. And there is an element of that. There is always going to be compliance training that people do have to do. But I think we need to really know the difference between compliance training and learning for my development and learning to do my job really well and in the best way I can.
So if I'm an employee in GSK, what differences will I start to notice?
You'll start to notice things being more available to you. And you will start to notice what I've used is the same as somebody in Singapore uses, the same as somebody in the US has used. So we'll have a common language, a common way of doing things. And also by that simplification, that standardisation, what we'll also be able to see is more focus on the things that are unique to GSK. So rather than reinventing a negotiating skills course, why not do something that's really about our products, that's really about our manufacturing, that's really about the way we market and sell our products to our customers. So that's what we'll see as a focus shifting to what's unique to GSK and simple availability of great, generic, to use that word, content.
And will it also encourage people from all over the world to begin to share a bit more if they're all working on the same program, then surely they'll be saying, there's a good idea here, I've had a good idea there. So people will begin to network more than they do already.
Yes, absolutely. And we've really seen that even in setting up our new operating model, because we've brought people in for things like the guidance on how to create best learning. We've brought people in from our manufacturing, from R&D, from the vaccines group, from the commercial group, as well as the Centre of Excellence. So already people are getting to know each other, getting to know how maybe we think of it a bit differently in Belgium to what we think of it in India to what we think of it in the UK. So that is starting to happen, and people are seeing the benefits of that.
So in some ways, you had a decentralised model loosely held together by some kind of committee, if you like. Now you've re-centralised in order to empower people right across the organisation.
Yes.
So it's a sort of re-decentralisation, but a more structured decentralisation.
Absolutely. And I think one of the words, and it's a strategy of the whole of GSK, it's simplification. Yeah. So if you can do it once and use it many, then that is what we want to do. So that when I'm on the line in GMS in Singapore or Pakistan or somewhere like that, I've got what I need at my fingertips, and I don't need to worry about where that is and how to find it or how to create it myself. So somehow it's simpler for the end user.
Yeah, so it's at the moment of need much more than it was able to be before, yes. Much more pan-organisation, much bigger attempt to bring the whole of GSK together, yes. And share some key issues. Yes. So what does Director of Quality do then? What's your job?
What is my job do? So what I've been doing recently is looking at what are the standards, what's the guidance for how we create learning. So if we're going to do that, let's do that in a standard way. So currently thinking about how do we upskill people in learning consultancy, for example. If we get the start right, then you're much more likely to get the right end product at the end. So really looking at that standard, that process flow, how to globalise products. Within my team, what we've also been looking at is some of those standard core products. So we've just literally this month released a global onboarding programme, which is a digital programme that tells you all the things you need to know about GSK, what's our mission, what's our value, what are the expectations, how do I grow in my career. So that's in one place for the first time. We've got a dedicated business skills curriculum, so that I referred to it earlier, 10 different languages, looking at 450 products, some of them face-to-face, some of them virtual instructor-led training, e-books, e-learning, all those sorts of things collated together in one area. So really thinking about what are the global products that are going to make a difference locally.
Yeah. So if someone's listening to this programme and they're saying, I want a bit of that, mm-hmm. what advice would you give them? Where would you start when you've got, as in many organisations, a very decentralised organisation, yeah. With a little bit at the centre, but basically people doing their own thing in different countries on different product lines and so on. Where did you start, and what would you advise people to do?
So we started with the numbers, although I say that's very difficult in a big organisation. Yeah. How many people are there? How much are we spending? And start to look at the business case. Because when you see that you're duplicating effort, when you see that you're missing opportunities, you can then start to put a number on. Because to make a change of this size needs real re-endorsement, real advocacy from your executive suite. So you need the numbers to start you off. And you also need to know where you're trying to go. I think in learning, we're very convinced about learning at the point of need, just-in-time learning, but actually that's a jargon that we need to get away from the business. We need to use the language of the business to sell this in. Yeah.
So start with evidence, make your case, yes. And recognise that you're going to make some big changes, but there are big benefits coming down the yes. track, and focus on the business, focus on what the business needs, focus on what employees in the business need. Don't start focusing on learning and what learning needs. That's irrelevant. Yeah. It's about the business.
Absolutely. We're a service in the background to make sure everything else works.
Yeah. Sue, that's great talking to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.